the number one question or the roadblock everybody has is, where do I start, right? How do I find land? How do I build on it? What do the numbers look like? Do I go for it? So I know there's some people in the room that are developers that are in real estate. So I'm just going to kind of do a little pulse check because I don't know all of you. How many of you guys are in real estate right now? Okay, good. How many of you guys are in commercial real estate? Okay, very cool. How many of you guys are doing the real estate for the first time? Okay, all right, very cool. So what we're going to do is we're going to try to keep everything very aerial, basic, so everybody can understand. And then if there's any questions as we go, let's just stop. Rather than keep Q&A at the end, we'll just do questions as we go. Okay, this way we can make sure everybody's going to be kind of with us, right? And it's going to kind of build on itself, so I don't want to lose anybody, okay? So our agenda today, obviously we're going to have a breakthrough. You guys are all going to do one of these at the end. What we're going to do is we're going to do some land analysis, like when you're out there looking for land, what to look for, how to find it, how to look at the different deals, how to compare different parcels. So we're going to look at 3 different land parcels. We're going to look at them. We're going to evaluate them together. The idea is not to pay attention to the data that you're going to see. The idea is to pay attention to the formula, right? So that you can do this yourself at home on your computer, right? And then we're going to kind of briefly touch on how to underwrite the deal so that when you feel like you have that parcel that you want to make an offer on or something like that, before you do that, you can kind of do the numbers on a quick, napkin underwrite, whatever you want to call it. That way you can kind of figure out like, hey, is this a profitable deal, right? That's kind of our agenda for today. And towards the end also, we can open it up for Q&A. I'm going to go for about an hour and a half. If you guys want to do a break in the middle, let me know, and we'll take a break. Otherwise, we'll just go full hour and a half. Cool? All right, cool. All right, so I got this little screen. I don't want to stand in the middle, so do you mind if I use a little bit of your space? And by the way, important notes. You have it. So everybody has papers in their workbooks. It's in some sort of sleeve. Of course, I don't have a copy. Yeah.
You need one?
Yeah, I'll take one, yeah.
You hand it up.
Yeah, pass it up, please. So at least I can see what you guys are seeing, By the way, I wear sunglasses all the time, not because I like to look cool or anything. It's just I have an eye problem, and the sun just kind of bothers me, so I'm wearing glasses. So it's hanging with me, okay? Yeah, exactly. 2 birds, 1 stone, right? Okay, so, okay. All right, so we're going to start with some content, and then we'll move into these worksheets, okay? So part 1, obviously land analysis, right? What do you look for when you're buying land, right? Has anybody started to find land yet? Like, are you guys looking on your computers for land? What sort of challenges are you having?
Price.
Price, obviously.
Well, not knowing. So, it's having this meeting here has solidified the points that I need to look for when identifying an appropriate piece of land, right? So, in the beginning, I just didn't know those bullet points as well as I do now. So.
Perfect. Awesome.
Sean, is that in here?
I don't believe so, but you're going to get a copy of it. Okay? So just like you guys are in right now, I was in a boot camp, and awesome guy. I didn't come up with these data metrics. Okay? So these are basically what you see in front of you is a few data metrics, and there's 2 pages of them. And this is kind of what we look for. So what we do first is we'll go online, look for parcels, shortlist them as many as we can. And then once we feel like, yeah, this one is really good, then we'll kind of do this analysis on it to kind of see if it checks all the boxes before we move to the next step. Okay, so that's kind of the idea behind this. So when you guys are home and you're doing it and you feel like you found the 1 or you found the 3. Sorry, what happened there?
Oh, no, it's the next one. We're going to get to that.
Okay. Oh, you want me to go to that slide? Is that what you're saying? Dude. All right, who wants to get some points? How do you make this bigger? There,
Yeah,
is that, there it is.
Oh, no.
Before I get into it, I just want to kind of make sure you understand what this is and it works, okay? So remember I said I was in a boot camp? So when I was sitting there 2 years ago, this gentleman, he told, he was kind of going over the metrics that he looks at. And at the time, he said, the market that's doing the best in the entire country is, anybody want to take a stab at it? What state?
Which state?
10
What
years
state?
ago,
2 years ago.
2 years ago.
Yeah, you're not going to guess it, but I'll try.
Florida.
Tennessee,
Nope.
Arizona?
So these are all good markets, okay? So Texas is also a great market. Florida is a good market. But what he was doing is he's narrowing it down to the city, right? And he picked Provo, Utah. Provo, Utah. Like, how do you pull that out of a hat, It's all database. So this guy, he's a he's a data investor. He'll pull data for every city, every state, and the one that's growing the fastest has the best, unemployment numbers, has the best population growth, has the best increase in property value, all those little data metrics that you should be using for real estate. Based on that, he picked Provo, Utah to be the #1 place in America 2 years ago to invest in real estate. Shit you not. Sorry. 2 days ago, I was looking at a report. It's available, Milken, M-I-L-K-E-N. They have good reports on data and all that. Data USA is another one.
Milliken or Milken?
Milken, M-I-L-K-E-N. I can send you the link. Guess what city is like top of the charts?
For the last 2 years.
Provo, Utah. And I'm like, oh my God, this stuff really works. So data is your friend. You really want to, use data in your decisions. That's the kind of the point I'm trying to drive home, right? So what are some of these data points? Number one is population growth. So what we're looking for is 10% growth in the last 10 years. And this is for cities that are large. So, if you have a smaller city, we'd want like a bigger number in population growth, like a 15%. And if it's a really big city, like a Chicago or a Houston, even 7% is considered good. But a benchmark, 10% population growth, 10 years, safe, right? How do you find this information? You can go on Google. You can easily search population growth on Google. Usually it'll be like 2 years behind as far as the data, but if you pull up the chart, like the 10-year, you can kind of see the trend, right? So that's number one, very easy data point to find. And we are going to kind of put this into practice in just a little bit. So kind of see how once we find the parcel, how do we check these boxes on the parcel that we find? So second one we're looking at is income growth. So median household income growth over 20 years, we're looking for 30%. 30% over 20 years. Some places are having 30% growth these days in 1 year, after COVID especially, markets like Idaho, for example. Huge growth, short span of time. So here's an example, and this data you can find on citydata.com. Citydata.com is a free website. You can punch in a city, you can punch in a zip code and get really good data points on all markets. So Houston, for example, currently is a $52,000 median income, whereas 20 years ago it was 36K, right? So if you see the growth, it's 144%. 44%. So that checks the box, right? I appreciate that. Thank you, John. Home value growth, that's another one we're looking at. 35% growth over 20 years. Again, we're seeing that in some markets in 2 years, right? But this is kind of a benchmark, right? How do you find that? Again, City Data has this information, and we're going to do a land parcel. We're going to underwrite it together, and that's when we're going to pull this data for that land parcel. I am a little bit shorter on time today because of all kinds of things. So our stop time is 3 p.m. So I'm going to try my best to kind of move at a comfortable pace. If I'm going too fast, let me know. Okay. All right. The other one is crime trends. Again, City Data has this information, and what it does is basically gives you a crime index. It's like a number, 500. That's kind of our benchmark, or 600 now. And what we're looking for is trend, right? We're not looking for a place where the trend of crime is higher. We're looking for a place where the trend of crime is, kind of going down or staying consistent. So in a good market, that index number that it'll give you will be below 600, okay? And like, for example, and no offense, anybody from Michigan? Okay, Detroit, for example, really high crime rate, right? So 2 years ago or 5 years ago, you could buy real estate for like pennies in Detroit, right? Why is that? Anybody want to take a guess? Crime, it's super high, so that drives property value down. So do you want to invest in a market that has high crime? No. You know what I mean? You want to be in a market which doesn't have high crime. So that's why it's an important metric. The last one, and obviously there's more metrics, but these are the top 5, okay? This one is one of the most important ones, and this is basically the job growth rate. This is on a website called Department of Numbers. It's a really cool website. It's a federal website. And you can basically search, sort by city, and what you're looking for is a 1.5% job growth or higher. And you can kind of do a 3-year average. You can sort by city. So what I would do personally, like when you go home and you feel like you want to embrace data as your friend, why don't you go into your home city or the one you like to build flex space and check the data points on that city. And that'll kind of give you an idea as to, hey, is this a good fit for my project? Is this data backed, right? Also, you want to study, if you haven't already, like what your rent rates are. Has everybody done that? Let's go through that real quick. Has everybody checked their local market and figured out what flex space is renting for in their market?
How do you find that?
We'll answer that. Hold on one second.
No, I'm acknowledging, yeah.
Okay.
If I can add, it's, again, not apples to apples. A lot of the spaces we're looking at, there is no, for say, flex spaces. So you're taking in a north-south pole kind of average scale.
That's exactly right. Anybody else do it? Knows in their market what flex space is renting or selling?
Based on CoStar, 16 and a half.
Okay.
That's the specific.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay. We need to talk about that, guys. Okay, so how do you find that out? The best and easiest tool, Loopnet. Everybody familiar with Loopnet? Yeah, it's a website, it's public, it's just like a MLS for commercial property, right? You go on there, you type in a zip code, you type in a city, you can type in an asset class, you can put industrial, you can put light industrial, you can put retail, you can put office, whatever you want. But you need to know the markets that you're in, how much does stuff rent for. That's a very important metric. That's the first thing I would do, okay? Who's still on the fence if they want to develop flex space? Anybody on the fence, or everybody want to do it? Everybody want to do it. Okay, good. So you have to know this number. Very important. Why is it important? Anybody want to answer? I like participation, so I ask these group questions because I don't want you guys to go to sleep. And I didn't make you do jumping jacks, okay? So why do you think it's important to know what stuff rents at?
Future procurement of tenants.
Yes? What else?
It helps you understand it helps you understand the value of this once it's stabilized.
Absolutely.
How much is it going to cost? How much is the profit going to be?
100%.
This is an indication.
100%. So residential real estate, the way it's valued is 3 comps sold in the last 6 months within a mile of the property that are similar in size and condition, right? Commercial, yes, that's a factor. That's called a comparable approach or a comp approach. The other approach is what's called an income approach to value or appraise property, right? So commercial is mainly driven by income, okay? I'll give you an example. Let's say this is a commercial space, right? Right next door to us is the same space, right? But what if that space is leased for 10 years at a great market rate and this space is empty? Which one would be more valuable to an investor who's putting money into a commercial space? That one, because it generates income, right? Same space, same everything, but one's empty, one's occupied, right? It's generating income. So commercial real estate is valued based on income that it generates. Okay, that's very important to know. Towards the end of our session here today, we're going to do a financial analysis on a property. And that's going to kind of clear that up a little bit, but that is paramount. You need to know this like right away if you're going to do this, okay? So number one, you can write it down as homework, whatever you want to call it. You need to know the lease rate for your market. And if you don't find flex, which is true, this is an underserved market. If you don't find flex, you can look, first is I would increase the distance. If you don't find new product, I would look at old product. If you don't find that, update it to just warehouse, right? You'll find warehouse in any market, right? If that doesn't work, look at retail, bless you. You look at office. Just have an idea of what stuff is renting for in your market. Very important. Same thing, I would check how much stuff is selling for in your market. New, old, everything in between. And write that number down, study it on an ongoing basis. So what I do is I set up an alert. In Loopnet, for example, you can set up an alert. Any new listing for lease or sale that comes up, I get a little notification on my app. I look at it before I go to bed, or if I have some time to myself. When you surf the phone, kind of high importance. That's number one. This stuff comes later, okay? All right, so other things. So has anybody talked to you guys about what happens after you find land? What happens? Who wants to take a stab?
You analyzing that.
Yes. And go ahead.
Go through the due diligence process.
Okay, and what does that include?
Comps.
Comps, lease rate, sale rate. You need to maybe have an architect or an engineer look at the land like, hey, what sort of zoning does it have? What sort of easements does it have? Is it in a floodplain? You're real quiet. You know all this, okay? So you need to participate a little bit, okay? Is it in a floodplain? Is it in wetland? Is it in, what's the vehicle count? All these things you need to know to be able to make a decision on, do I buy this land or not, okay? So these are some tools. These are websites. There's links. You're going to get a copy of this presentation. Okay, so some of us learn by writing, so go for it. But I just want you to know that you're going to get a copy of this presentation. You're going to get these websites. You're going to be able to use this later. Okay. So what I personally recommend, right? So this is not in the exact order I would like, but once you've found the parcel, you've checked all the data, right? Checks all the boxes, like, okay, I like it so far. All the numbers, everything works. Now I need to contact my, maybe you make an offer, it gets accepted, and after that you contact your engineer to kind of do their stuff, right? An engineer would appreciate it if you have already kind of checked out these things, wetlands, easements, flood zone, because some of these things are deal killers, right? If your property's in a flood zone, like for example, and this example comes to life in one of the little case studies we're going to do. Let's say I'm looking at two properties, right? I'm super excited. I make offers on both of them. I call the engineer, tell him to underwrite everything on both of them. He charges me a $2,500 fee, whatever. And after everything, I find out that 50% of one of the properties is in a flood zone or a wetland. I can't build on that. So everything that I did, all the work that I did, it goes down the drain, right? So if you check this right off the bat, you'll save yourself a lot of time, you'll save yourself some emotional stress, and you'll save your engineers some time, because we don't want to, spin wheels for no reason, right? And your broker as well.
I have a question real quick. While you're analyzing a deal, let's say the market analysis checks out, what I'm finding right now is a hurdle is the topography level. There's no surveys, there's no topography. I still like the numbers. Do I put an offer and it's accepted, then do the post due diligence for, like, say, the topography and survey?
Yes. Yeah, typically after you make an offer, you'll get a due diligence period. We recommend minimum 60 days. If it's your first time, 90 days, right? In that time period, your broker should kind of put a contingency in your contract to have the seller provide a survey, so you don't have to pay for it. If there's one existing, provide you a copy of it. And then you will do some topo survey and stuff like that to kind of figure out the grade and slope and all of those things. But that can happen post offer acceptance versus pre, because you don't want to put money into it unless your price gets accepted, right? So I'll give you a quick example, right? So when I first started in real estate and I was, let's say, flipping homes, I used to go to an auction a lot, right? I used to buy auction property, sight unseen, cash. The first time I went there to buy a property, like, I'm shaking, you know, because I'm going to spend like $50,000, $100,000. I don't even know what I'm going to get, right? And I've barely researched it, and I don't know how to read title and kind of go through all the liens. I learned it, but the first time I went, I'm like, it's like Halloween night, you know? I bought it, everything worked out well. The property was like horrible. I don't want to get into that. But 6 months fast forward, I was buying 2, 3 at a time. You know, spending like $750,000 cash one day, right there. Like, my point is, you'll get comfortable with this, right? The first time will be hard. The second time will be a little bit easier, and the third time will be like cake, right? People who buy single family or, you know, who flip single family property, like on the MLS, like I used to make offers on property 3 at a time. I'm not going to buy 3, I'm going to buy 1, but I made offers all the time, right? So my point is that you do your due diligence sometimes after your offer is accepted so that you're not spinning your wheels ahead of time. And you have to be confident that, hey, you know, yeah, I'm putting up $2,000, $5,000, $10,000 in earnest money, but I'll get it back if it doesn't pan out, right? In the first one, of course, you want to be a little bit more careful. So anyway, so we're going to look at 3 parcels of land.
So just quickly, Loopnet, if I'm looking on Loopnet, I'm not gonna see what's been leased at a particular rate. I'm gonna see what's available at a particular rate.
You're going to see available.
Right. So I found one that's right near the area where I wanna put a building, 6 spaces, 1,200 square feet. One's available for lease out of the 6, and they're at $1,850 a square foot.
Okay.
So that's probably an indication as to what the other tenants are paying.
Yes. It's a range, yeah.
All right.
So that would, like if I was to see that, one is I would look for more. I would maybe drive it, if
Yeah.
it's in your vicinity,
Yeah.
to see like, hey, are the other 6 actually leased out, or is just like a listing, you know? And then if you find another, because like one could have been leased at 12, let's say it was the first tenant that moved in, but current rate could be 18, right? And the other thing I would check is if it's triple net or gross.
Triple net.
Triple net. So then you would have to kind of figure out what is kind of the, you know, OPEX
Yep.
on that deal.
Yep.
Let's say it's $5, $7 a foot, and come to your gross number, which is like 25, for example,
Yeah.
right?
Which is a
This-
big number.
That's a good number. If you're building flex, it's a great number. If the land is in the right place. Does everybody understand what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Everybody on point? Like we're on point? Okay, good. All right. So what I've done is I've picked 3 parcels of land. No, like there's no like I haven't put too much time into picking them. I just picked them. All right. So the idea is to learn from this, not to like look up this address later. Okay. All right. So we're gonna kind of use one of our based on time. Let's see. Hold on. I'm trying to think if I want to give you the answers. Okay. Let's pull out this worksheet. Right. This is land analysis. Right. Everybody has one of these. So they went double-sided on there. Okay. And let's fill this out together. Okay? You may need a calculator. Unless you're a genius. Okay. So this is you at home on your computer, on your phone, and you see this parcel, and we're just going to kind of break it down a little bit together as a group, right? So obviously the first thing it's gonna, like if we kind of follow this worksheet, first thing we see obviously is the price, right? 610,000. I'm sorry, I know I'm kind of in your way.
No, you're good.
So the first thing we see is the price. It's 610,000. Next, we see that it's 4 acres, right? And what we want to probably do is kind of break that down by square foot. So here, bonus question. How many square feet in an acre?
43,560.
There you go. Perfect. I just do 43.5 just to keep the math easy in my head if I'm doing it. Calculator, obviously different. So who wants to do the honors? How many square foot is this particular parcel? Perfect. All right. I'm gonna be glancing at your calculator a little bit. I like that. Okay. Thank you. All right. So that tells us it's the lot size. The asking price is 609. And then how much is that per foot?
3.5 plus.
Yeah, it's right around.
174.
Yep. So next, we're trying to figure out what's our offer price, right? So what I like to do, and this is like when I'm really serious. Like I'm not going to do all of this till I'm serious, but let's say I'm really serious about this parcel. If they're asking 350, I'm going to come up with a per square foot price, maybe 275, 325, right? And based on what I find wrong with it, I'll offer, or how long has it been on the market, what's happening around it, how much do I like it, like, are we close to, how's the market doing? Based on that, I'll make either an aggressive offer at asking price, or I'll go well below it, 30% discount at 275 per square foot. But I want to have those 3 numbers kind of written down. So how about we do that? So we have the total square footage, right? And let's just write on our price 275, 3, and 3 1/4. And then based on the square footage we have, multiply it to kind of see what could be our potential offer price. So we could come up with 3.
Sorry, guys.
Hey, no worries, no worries. Taking care of business, man. I see that.
Yes, I had to.
Yeah, no worries.
There we
By the way, the grand prize today for the person who participates the most, gets the most answers right, you get to ride in an orange Lambo.
Yes.
Nah, just kidding.
I don't know if you want me to driving. I'm telling you.
It's all yours.
He didn't say drive, he said ride.
Where are we at? What are we doing?
That was not qualified. I'm just kidding. So we're underwriting land. We're doing a land analysis. We've looked at some data points. We'll get you a copy of this presentation. We've looked at some data points that we look for when we select land. So we'll go fill you in on that later. Right now, what we're going to do is we're going to underwrite 3 parcels of land. And we're doing the first one. We're using a worksheet. And the square footage that we have is how much, guys?
174, some change.
Yeah, if you want to fill that in. Asking price is 609,840, 609,840. And next blank that we're trying to figure out is what is the offer price at $275 a foot, $3 a foot, and 3 1/4 a foot.